to the SCORE Business Showcase. Welcome once again. Today we have a phenomenal guest with us. It's going to be a great show. I'm looking forward to it myself. We have quite a few questions that we want to ask this gentleman. He's had quite a time here in Bridgeport, and we'd like to welcome the famed Mickey Herbert. Welcome, Mickey. Now, you've been a fixture here in the greater Bridgeport area now for over 40 years. Tell us how you ended up coming to this town way back when.
It was way back when, and I actually moved here from the Twin Cities, and I came here to start a health plan. I had been working in Minnesota for a doctor who was my mentor, who was very influential in convincing the Nixon administration to make health plans part of national health policy for the first time. Did that for 6 years, and then decided, along with several of my peers, to go out and start my own health plan. I was also playing a lot of sort of top-flight, fast-pitch softball at the time, and so when I decided where I wanted to go to start a health plan, I looked around where the best fast-pitch softball teams were, and it just so happened that Stratford had the defending national champion, Rebestos Cardinals, so I decided to come here and start a health plan in Bridgeport, where we had a group of doctors very committed to starting up a new health plan.
Wow. All right. Yeah. Now, so you came to the town to start your new health plan and to play fast-pitch softball for the defending national champions, Rebestos Cardinals of Stratford. How did that work out for you?
It worked out great. First of all, the PHS, the Physicians Health Services, the health plan, became incredibly successful, and I ran it for 22 years. It started out as a small little health plan, became the biggest health plan in the state, eventually became a tri-state health plan, and we went through a conversion from nonprofit to for-profit. We were a public company, and ended up selling it in 1998, 22 years later, when it was serving over 500,000 members and was a billion-dollar company. That was really a great ride. I also played 8 years with the Rebestos team, and in the years I was there, we won one more national championship, so that worked out pretty well too.
You were actually on the team?
Oh yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
what position did you play?
Well, I came as an infielder. I later became an outfielder, and at the very end, I was a designated hitter.
All right.
So.
Now, what was it like to be a founder of the Bridgeport Bluefish team?
Well, when it was apparent that PHS was going to be sold, because in point of fact we were caught up in a lot of the merger and acquisition activity that affected health plans in the 90s. It was pretty apparent that PHS was going to be acquired by someone else. So the timing was perfect for me to get involved as an owner of the Bridgeport Bluefish. Brand new league, brand new team, exciting thing in this city, and that happened, and I owned the team for 8 years, including outright for 7 of those 8 years, and I can tell you that it was fabulous. You know as well as me that the Bluefish kind of took this town by storm, and we had a great run. We had a really great run. It was great.
Matter of fact, that's how I met you, because I delivered the BRBC Chamber book to you at that time.
That's right.
Quite a few years ago. That was when we first met.
Yeah.
Let's not go back that far, right?
Yeah.
Now, once you sold the team in 2005, what was your next venture?
Well, it's interesting because even though I had originally thought I was going to be like a minor league baseball mogul the rest of my life, but I kind of got itching to get back into the health plan field, and I got sort of serendipitously, I got recruited to run another health plan in this state, Connecticut, a very successful health plan up in Farmington, and I agreed to do that. I ended up selling the ball club at the end of that 2005 season and taking on that new job as Connecticut's CEO, and loved that. I didn't particularly like the commute to Farmington. I live in Fairfield, but I did that for 5 more years till 2010.
Okay. Now, I'm just going to interject this because, you've been in the healthcare field for quite some time.
Yeah.
How do you feel about what's going on now with the health industry? What's happening there?
Well, in some respects, I'm kind of glad I'm running the BRBC. But I get asked the question all the time, where is it going to all end up? And that's the one question I can't answer. I don't know where it's going to end up. I'm a big advocate of a marketplace a market approach to healthcare. It's what my mentor all the way back in Minnesota promoted, and hopefully we will end up somehow with a market-based healthcare system. But details, it's I can't help you there.
Yes, I think that's where they're at too.
Yeah.
Now, so in 2010, it looked like you were going to be retiring.
Yep.
What drew you back into the workforce again?
Well, it's interesting because we all knew Speaker that the minority Speaker of the House, John McKinney. He came after me and wanted me to serve on the Access Help Board, which is the exchange that became part of the Affordable Care Act.
Yes.
It was formed in Connecticut. So I went on that original board thanks to him appointing me. And that was up in Hartford, and I enjoyed doing that. Frankly, I had more health insurance background than anyone on the board, so I was very helpful to that process. But then I got recruited by Oz Griebel, who runs the Metro Hartford Alliance, which is kind of the counterpart to the BRBC up in Hartford. And he recruited me to set up something called the Connecticut Health Council, which was a statewide organization addressing healthcare issues. Did that for a couple of years. And then I got recruited to run a third health plan in Connecticut, Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare, because they were a very successful health plan up north, particularly in the Boston area, and we're expanding in Connecticut. So I did that for 2 years. And then once again, at the end of 2014, I figured I would be pretty much retired. So
You're staying busy.
yeah.
Now, after those working experiences, all in Hartford through 2014, what did you do next?
Well, I did some consulting. I actually worked for Nielsen, the polling people, on healthcare reform issues, stayed abreast of that whole, the whole progress. Remember, the Affordable Care Act didn't actually go in force until 2014, so I did consulting with respect to, particular respect to how major corporations could adapt to the Affordable Care Act.
Okay.
And I was doing that all the way up until August of last year.
Okay. Now, tell us about your lengthy involvement with the Bridgeport Regional Business Council.
Well, way back when I was running PHS, even before Paul Timpanelli, my predecessor, who served 28 years in that job,
Yes.
I actually was on that board even before that and stayed on it. There's no term limits. And actually, I was chair of the BRBC in the late 90s for a couple years. And the BRBC has this tradition that if you've been a chair of the BRBC, you can stay on its board as an ex officio member.
Okay.
So I stayed on all through that time and was still serving on the board back in August of last year when the BRBC was actively looking for a replacement for Paul Timpanelli. So it's a talk about serendipity. I came to a board meeting of the BRBC at the end of August thinking that we were going to be voting on hiring Paul's replacement, but the board said we weren't able to reach an agreement with the leading candidate, and the search committee was kind of stuck. So I rode home that day thinking, you know, I could do that for a couple of years. And I contacted Chuck Furlot, the president of the water company, who was on the search committee, and I said, would I be crazy to think about doing this? He said, heck no, we could get an experienced CEO here. So I made a 2-year commitment to do that. I was put through the search committee process and ended up being hired by the board in October and started last November. So I'm 6 months in.
Okay. I was going to ask you that question.
Yeah.
But since you've taken on this, how, well, you've talked about transforming BRBC.
Yeah.
We know we talked about that earlier. How is that coming along?
Well, when I took the job, I said, the one thing I'm going to do in my 2 years, maybe 2-year plus reign, is I'm going to really try to transform this organization. Chambers of Commerce have lost some membership over the years. There's kind of a downward trend line,
Yes.
not just with the BRBC.
Yes.
I said, we're going to reverse that. We're going to shake some things up. And that's been my commitment since I came. So we are really pushing the envelope. We're working with, we're going to get all new marketing materials, new logo. Actually, just last night, we completed a complete audiovisual upgrade of our board and conference room, so it's social media savvy, and we do all sorts of things in that room, in the conference room we never could do before. And we're also doing some other things for our membership that I'll be eager to talk about too.
Yes, matter of fact, our conversation, we were talking about it. One of the things that I felt that the BRBC, I added my 2 cents in,
Yeah.
as far as the small business,
Yeah.
as far as working with them. So what does the BRBC offer to its member investors?
Well, when I got here, I said, there's really 4 areas that the BRBC serves its members and serves them well. One of them is increased visibility, and that is particularly important to small businesses. And we do that through like business after hours and events where we allow our members to get exposed to our other members. And we do it in an active way. The BRBC has always done an okay job there, but we've really tried to step it up a notch and provide more visibility to our members. We also are involved in leadership training. Within the last year, we established an organization called Thrive, which attracts young people, millennials, but that are members of the BRBC and work for the companies that are members. And that's a very active kind of young executives, young people's organization that really is a great visibility thing, networking thing for them. We also have a program that's in its 29th year called Leadership Greater Bridgeport, where we take kind of mid-level executives and put them through a 9-month course. You're smiling. Well, you probably went through it.
Number 7.
Oh, number 7. Well, we're having a graduation soon for our 28th year, and we'll be starting our 29th year in the fall. We also have a group called the Women's Leadership Council, which puts on training programs that was originally founded for women, but we've kind of broadened it now. They're just general leadership programs. We just had one last week with Themis Claridis, who's the speaker in the minority person in the state legislature. She did a great job coming and talking about her job. And we had a panel there of entrepreneurs. The whole thing was called Think and Act Like an Entrepreneur. It was great. And then we also have 3 chambers of commerce. We have the Bridgeport Chamber of Commerce, the Stratford Chamber of Commerce, and the Trumbull Chamber of Commerce, all under the Bridgeport Regional Business Council. So a couple of other things we do quickly. We provide political advocacy for the business interests of our members. And lastly, we are involved in economic development, which has been a staple of the BRBC for a long time.
That's a mouthful.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. And matter of fact, I just became the vice chair with the Bridgeport SCORE here recently.
Yeah.
And so
SCORE was involved with our Women's Leadership Council.
Yes.
This very last time. It was great.
It was fantastic. Yeah. So you have our commitment in helping the BRBC in that area. Now, you write a weekly blog called Mickey Mail.
Mickey's Mail.
Mickey's Mail, right?
Okay.
Tell us about that.
Well, again, to be transformative and to provide, frankly, more communication and more timely communication to our members. This is something I've done basically my whole career. When I ran PHS for 22 years, we put out a weekly memo, which I mostly authored all during that time, called Friday's Memo.
Okay.
And I did the same thing at Connecticut. When I was at the Bluefish, I put out a weekly memo called Mickey's Mail. And when I write this, a lot of times it's about key issues of interest to businesses. It's almost always somehow related to the BRBC, but not always. It's just things that I think will interest the business community in this area. I have great fun writing it. I've had people all over town tell me that I can't wait to get your next Mickey's Mail. And that has absolutely helped improve our ability to communicate with our members. Because I ask for responses back. I answer every single one who writes me back about it. It's been great.
I have to say that I have not read it, so I'm going to start looking at that, because it does come across. There's like hundreds of emails I get, but I will start taking a look at that. Now, it seems that you guys are doing a lot, but you're doing it with a very small staff. How do you manage that?
Well, we have the good news. When Paul left, 28 years of institutional memory walked out the door. But fortunately, we've got some experienced folks that have been involved with the BRBC many years. Karen DeVecchio, this is her 11th year. She really kind of runs the place on a day-to-day operation. Stephanie Lindley, who worked for Paul all those years, stayed on. She's there. Jocelyn Paoletta has been terrific, doing lots and lots of stuff, mainly creative and marketing stuff for us. Jeff Bishop has been there a long time. So the good news is we have a staff with a lot of experience, and a lot of the stuff we do year to year. We know how to do it well. But the point I'm trying to make is I was amazed at all of the work that is done and done well by this limited staff. It's really remarkable.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, there are many affiliate organizations with the BRBC. Tell us about them.
Well, I actually hit on most of them already when I talked about Thrive, Leadership Greater Bridgeport, and the chambers. The three chambers all operate somewhat independently with us. In other words, they have their own board of directors. They get involved in issues that are particularly germane to their particular town. I mean, the Stratford Chamber has its own executive, who's Laura Hoydick, who's in the legislature but serves in this capacity running the Stratford Chamber on a part-time basis. We have a Trumbull Chamber that's very active in Trumbull issues, including economic development issues. And then we have a Bridgeport Chamber, which a lot of people don't know about because it's housed at the BRBC and it's kind of under the aegis of the BRBC. But they concern themselves with key issues really germane to Bridgeport itself.
Yes.
So.
Now, you know what? It sounds like you're wearing quite a few hats.
Yeah.
It's like spinning plates.
Oh my gosh.
Now, how do you manage that, and also your business and also family?
Well, it's the good news for me is that I mentioned I was doing a fair amount of consulting with Nielsen. Nielsen actually sold that business last summer, so all of a sudden that was taken away, and my wife recently went back, wrote a thesis, got her master's degree, and went to work at St. Thomas School in Fairfield and taught school there. Then she got recruited by St. Thomas to the church, the parish, to run their CCD program. And she does that on basically a full-time plus basis. All 5 of my kids are grown and we're nestless. And my 4 grandsons are, 3 of them are in Atlanta, unfortunately, but one's nearby. But so the good news is we have a nestless thing, and we manage it well. It would have been way harder when those 5 kids were growing up in my house, so it's a little bit easier now.
Right.
And my wife's very understanding. I'm understanding of her long hours. She's understanding of mine.
Good. So it's a working team.
Oh my God.
Excellent. Now, you made a 2-year commitment to the BRBC as a CEO.
Yep.
You're 6 months into it.
Yep.
What's going to happen a year and a half from now?
Well, to me, in a perfect world, we'd get to next summer. The 2-year commitment would run out at the end of September next summer. The BRBC would want me to stay on, and I myself would want to stay on, and we'd work out some extended arrangement beyond that. If either party isn't happy with each other at that point, we'll part our ways, and at that point, I will be actively involved in recruiting my replacement, because I have a pretty good idea of the type of person that needs to come in and run the BRBC, and I would be as helpful as I could be to that process. But we'll see. I mean, I love what I'm doing now. I think there's a pretty good chance that the board and I would maybe extend that 2 years.
Yes. Now, I've been I've been in Bridgeport for all my life, actually.
Yeah.
And matter of fact, talking about it, my father was involved in Bridgeport too. He used to be the caretaker of Seaside Park.
Oh,
Right,
gosh.
This was during the Mandanese era.
Oh
during
my
that
gosh!
period.
Yeah.
We lived in Bridgeport at Beersley Park. When you come in the entrance on Noble Avenue.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Lived there from 1966 until I got married until 1975. So it was a fantastic backyard, 225 acres at that time. Before they put that Route 25 in,
Oh my gosh!
there was swimming. That was my
Yeah.
swimming area. That's where I was
You know,
actually
our founding doctor of PHS was Bob Doring, who had an office right on Noble, right across the street from the zoo. So
Okay.
I was there many times working with him when we were founding and building PHS.
And there was no fences back then at that time.
Oh my gosh!
Right? It was free to go into the park.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
Absolutely. Brings back good memories. Now,
Yeah.
how would you characterize Greater Bridgeport as a place to live and work?
Well, it's interesting because, I mean, I've always been a big fan of Bridgeport. It took me about maybe 3 months after I got here. I love playing for that ball team in this area. I love building that health plant. when I got involved with the ball club, it actually was in 1996 when Jenkins Valve was still down there as this
Yes.
manufacturing hulk of what it used to be. And so when I made that investment in the ball club, which opened up 2 years later, I actually thought that Bridgeport was going to have an extraordinary renaissance right at that time. That was one of the reasons I chose to do that.
Okay.
I have no regrets for having done it, but the reality was the renaissance kind of stalled, frankly. You know, a lot of things happened in 2001. We had the dot-com bubble burst. We had 9/11. We had the mayor indicted. You know, all of a sudden, it seems like there was a perfect storm of things that slowed Bridgeport down. But I actually think now it's at a tipping point where it's on the go. I feel it every day in my job. I'm a big supporter of this mayor. I think that the state's looking out for Bridgeport. One thing we didn't have back in 1996 is we had very few people living downtown. And now we have all this housing growth. I mean, we could use some more, but it's happening. And we were going to have Senator Murphy here last week to visit the security building just north of the Holiday Inn and see what Kim Morkey and Spinnaker has done with that building. That's a renovated building that's now 60% rented. Actually, the mayor has a place there, lives there. So, and that's what they call downtown North, which is really, as you know, kind of been a hovel for many, many years. So I actually believe that Bridgeport is truly now at a tipping point of experiencing that renaissance that I thought was going to be happening back 20 years ago.
Because it looks like I think they were doing some work on the theater.
Well, there's a proposal out there to take the two theaters, completely renovate and open one, and then renovate the other one and put a hotel there and retail. That to me, that's a longer range project, but the mayor's apparently got someone who's bid on it and intends to take it on.
And what's happening with Steel Point?
Steel Point is remarkable. There's another groundbreaking starting on Monday. Bass Pro is terrific. The other stores that are there are great. I mean, it's just, there's going to be a movie theater going in there, a grocery store. That is absolutely happening. You know, after Bass Pro, it looked like there wasn't much happening for a while, but mainly that was because they had to bring in tons and tons of earth to raise the foundation, you know, the point, raise the whole point. After Superstorm Sandy, the regulations changed, and they said you have to but that's basically done now.
Okay.
I mean, I look out my window and see that, and I have all winter long I've been watching the earth that's been moved in there, but that's basically completed at this point. So stay tuned. It's really exciting.
I'm looking forward to it. You know, I, as I mentioned, I lived in Bridgeport all my life. I love Bridgeport. Matter of fact, there's some friends of ours put together that slogan, "I love Bridgeport" T-shirts.
Right? I think I've got one of those.
Yes, that's fantastic. And so, where do you see the future, though, of Bridgeport?
Yeah, well, you know, some people say it doesn't have a theme. Well, I'm not even sure it needs a theme. I know the mayor is very interested in continuing the sports and entertainment complex that includes, of course, the ballpark and the arena. I think that's great. This Brewport that opened a few months ago, I wish that it had been open when I owned the team. It would have been the natural hangout for our players, our players, and a whole bunch of our fans. You know, right a block away from the ballpark. So you've got that, and if you just look around, let's talk about the region. Perhaps the biggest thing that's happened in this region in the last few years was, you know, Lockheed acquired Sikorsky, but then made a commitment and won a contract, a huge new helicopter contract, and the state stepped in and gave certain incentives to Lockheed to stay at least through 2032. So not only do we have Sikorsky staying here and building, unlike GE, which moved its headquarters, but we have all the suppliers that supply Sikorsky all breathing a sigh of relief, and that is hugely beneficial to this region in ways we can't even imagine. And next month, we're having Dan Schultz, who's the president of Sikorsky, come and speak at our annual meeting, And I've already seen what he presents before. It's magnificent what they're doing at that helicopter factory. It's terrific. But then there's other things that need to be done. We have the Army engine plant over there, which is yet to be developed. That's a huge potential. But there's things happening like all the way up the other end of Trumbull with Cooper Surgical's put a magnificent new business building up there. And then all the stuff that's happening in downtown. I think, 20 years ago we talked about Bridgeport becoming like what happened to Stamford or even South Norwalk.
Yes.
I think we can look to have that happen now finally in Bridgeport over the next 20 years for sure.
Looking forward to that. Now, why should the small business person actually join the BRBC?
Well, first of all, we don't charge much in the way of dues to small businesses, and we even have a discounted rate for restaurants. And again, if you want to promote your business, you have an opportunity to do that. I mean, for example, we have in February a huge business after hours at People's Bank, and it's a big turnout. You show up there with a handful of business cards. In a 2-hour time period, you can make all kinds of contacts. We have other ways of making sure your business gets known through its membership in ours. We are constantly getting phone calls from our members saying, do you know, can you connect me, is there a way? And we refer to our members. And I think you just have to go and get individual testimonies from any number of small businesses who have watched their business grow and give the BRBC a lot of credit for that.
Excellent.
I'll tell you just one. Willie McBride, who runs Willie McBride Electric Company,
yes.
He's on our board, and he will tell you straight up that his business has grown in large part because of his connection and active participation in the BRBC.
Matter of fact, we mentored Willie with SCORE.
He's a great success
Certainly.
story.
Let me just briefly talk about this because we're running out of time.
Yeah.
This book, for you businesses out there, Option B, it was written by a member of Facebook, and it's really talking about resilience after going through some challenges. So we highly recommend that you take a look at this. But Mickey, I really appreciate you coming. Thank you for taking the time.
It's great.
All right, and we look forward to working together, SCORE and BRBC.
Absolutely.
And,
Keep working together.
making some things grow. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.